talking?
All units, find the girl.
People believe in the Avengers. Your differences are your greatest superpower. No matter how bad things get, you always come together.
Hey, welcome to Attack the Stack. If you like that, try this. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 is an action role-playing game. The game was jointly developed by Vicarious Visions, End Space, and Savage Entertainment, and was published by Activision. The game features characters from the Marvel Comics universe and follows elements of the Secret War and Civil War story arcs. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 borrows much of its gameplay from its predecessor. The game allows players to select a team of 4 given characters from a larger pool of heroes and villains. Team members are interchangeable and may be swapped during gameplay. General gameplay mechanics are similar to those of the X-Men Legends series. The game is played from an isometric dungeon crawl perspective, supporting up to 4 players simultaneously. The power system has also been improved, allowing 2 characters to combine powers, yielding a new attack known as a fusion. Each playable character in the game has a unique fusion with every other playable character in the game. Players have the ability to level up characters and earn new abilities and powers. The game features an updated character progression system, with each character having 4 core powers that evolve as the character levels up.
The city is secure. Those who fled are being hunted, and those foolish enough to remain have been executed.
Destiny 2 is an online-only, multiplayer first-person shooter game developed by Bungie. It is now free to play. The game was published by Activision until Bungie acquired the publishing rights to the franchise. Set in a mythic science fiction world, the game features a multiplayer shared world environment with elements of role-playing games. Players assume the role of a guardian, protectors of Earth's last safe city, as they wield a power called Light to protect the last city from different alien races. One of these races, the Cabal, led by the warlord Dominus Gaul, assault the last city and strip all guardians of their light. The player sets out on a journey to regain their light and find a way to defeat Gaul and his Red Legion army and take back the last city. Like the original, activities in Destiny 2 are divided among player versus environment, or PvE, and player versus player, PvP game types. In addition to normal missions, PvE features 3-player strikes and 6-player raids. A free roam patrol mode is also available for each planet and features public events as well as new activities not featured in the original. These new activities have an emphasis on exploration of the planets and interactions with non-playable characters. PvP features objective-based modes as well as traditional deathmatch game modes. Upon release, Destiny 2 received generally favorable reviews from critics. The game received praise for its many improvements over its predecessor. Destiny 2 was praised as having a more robust story than the original and an actual fleshed-out villain. As with the original, gameplay for the most part was also highly praised, as well as its graphics, multiplayer, and the public events. Praise was also unanimous on the exploration of the game world. Destiny 2 was nominated for and won various awards, such as at the Game Awards and Game Critics Awards. Marvel's Avengers is basically a reskin of Destiny, so if you like Marvel's Avengers, you'll probably like Destiny 2.
Gentlemen, the situation is dire. I welcome any ideas.
The LEGO Marvel Collection bundles all 3 LEGO Marvel games into one package. I'm going to focus on the first game in the trilogy, LEGO Marvel Superheroes. LEGO Marvel Superheroes is a LEGO-themed action-adventure game developed by Traveler's Tales and published by Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment. The game features gameplay similar to other LEGO titles, alternating between various action-adventure sequences and puzzle-solving scenarios. The game's storyline sees various heroes from the Marvel Universe joining forces to foil the schemes of Doctor Doom and Loki, who have also recruited a number of villains to aid them, with Galactus being the main antagonist in the game. The villains seek to conquer the Earth using, wait for it, the Doom Ray of Doom, a device built from the shards of the Silver Surfer's board called Cosmic Bricks. Following the gameplay style of past LEGO titles, players are able to control 180 characters from the Marvel Universe, each with their own unique abilities. Many of the main LEGO minifigure characters are based on their appearance from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The creative team has also incorporated Marvel Comics co-creator Stan Lee into the game. One of the main settings of LEGO Marvel Superheroes is a LEGO version of New York City. In addition, a LEGO version of Asgard was created. Players can explore the Marvel version of New York City, though they can only use a specific character and access buildings after the campaign is complete. Side missions are narrated by Deadpool and take place in buildings with their own storylines. There are a total of 15 missions in the main single-player campaign, followed by 11 side missions. It's not the best-selling LEGO game of all time the last time I checked for no reason. I mean, 180 characters, need I say more?
You are the chosen few, protectors of our world.
Anthem is an online multiplayer action role-playing game developed by BioWare and published by Electronic Arts. Set on an unnamed planet, players assume the role of freelancers, heroic adventurers who wear powerful exosuits to defend humanity from the threats beyond their city's walls. The game's title refers to the Anthem of Creation, a powerful and mysterious force responsible for most of the extraordinary technology, phenomena, and threats in the world. In the main narrative, the player's freelancer is tasked with stopping the villainous Monitor from seizing control of the Anthem. Anthem combines third-person shooter and action role-playing game elements in a contiguous open world shared with up to 3 other players. Each player takes the role of a freelancer donning fully customizable exosuits called Javelins. Anthem features 4 unique Javelin variants, which the player unlocks while progressing through the game. Each Javelin features unique attributes and abilities that encourage different styles of play and evoke classic role-playing game character archetypes. The Ranger is the Javelin players begin the game with, and is considered the all-around master of combat. Colossus is the largest and slowest, but the most resilient and features a large shield to absorb attacks or hit enemies. The Interceptor is the fastest and most agile, specializing in quick close-quarters melee strikes. And the Storm is the least armored, but can remain airborne the longest, allowing it to attack from a distance with blasts of elemental energies. Players can build relationships with various non-playable characters, but they cannot establish romantic relationships with them, as was common of previous BioWare games. The central meeting point of the game takes place in Fort Tarsus. It serves as a fortified settlement against the threats of the outside world, and is the point where the player goes to receive new missions and freelance assignments. It is a melting pot where all the different factions of the game meet, including the Sentinels, Corvus, Cyphers, and Arcanists. If you liked flying around and playing as Iron Man in Marvel's Avengers, then you might like Anthem. Now I know the game's divisive, but there's still some fun to be had in the short term at least.
You're Spider-Man. Look, next time, leave the fighting to the pros.
Marvel's SpiderMan is an action-adventure game developed by Insomniac Games and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. In the main storyline, the superhuman crime lord Mr. Negative orchestrates a plot to seize control of New York City's criminal underworld. When Mr. Negative threatens to release a deadly virus, Spider-Man must confront him and protect the city while dealing with the personal problems of his civilian persona, Peter Parker. Gameplay has a primary focus on Spider-Man's traversal and combat abilities. Spider-Man can freely move around New York City, interacting with characters, undertaking missions, and unlocking new gadgets and suits by progressing through the main story or completing tasks. Outside the story, the player is able to complete side missions to unlock additional content and collectible items. Combat focuses on chaining attacks together and using the environment and webs to incapacitate numerous foes while avoiding damage. The game received praise for its narrative, characterization, combat, and web-swinging traversal mechanics. A number of reviewers even called it one of the best superhero games ever made, some comparing it favorably to the Batman Arkham series. It won several year-end accolades from a variety of gaming publications, critics, and Game Awards ceremonies. If Black Widow was your girl in Marvel's Avengers, you'll find that her moves are very reminiscent of everyone's favorite friendly neighborhood web slinger in Spidey. They're basically like 2 peas in a pod or 2 spiders in a web. Moving on. Tom Clancys The Division 2 is an online action role-playing game developed by Massive Entertainment and published by Ubisoft. It is set in the near-future Washington, D.C., in the aftermath of a genetically engineered virus known as green poison being released, and follows an agent of the Strategic Homeland Division as they try to rebuild the city. The game is a cover-based third-person shooter with up to 4 players being able to complete missions together. The game takes place in Washington, D.C., 7 months after its predecessor, in which a civil war between survivors and various bands of marauders breaks out. In the game, players are equipped with different firearms to defeat enemies. These weapons are classified into different tiers and rarity. High-quality guns are difficult to obtain, but they have better weapon stats and talents that further help boost players' performance. These weapons can be further customized with different attachments like scopes, iron sights, and barrel attachments. The game features a variety of gear and armor. Wearing gear from the same brand gives players a small performance boost. As players complete missions, they gain loot and experience points. With sufficient XP, they level up and gain Shade Tech, a currency to unlock new skills. These skills include deploying gun turrets, shields, and combat drones, or gaining access to weapons like seeker mines and chem launchers. Each skill has unique mods that change its functionality. It received generally favorable reviews from critics, with most noting it as an improvement over the first installment.
We face the gravest threat the world's ever known. We'll face it with the greatest hero the world's ever seen.
Captain America Super Soldier is a third-person single-player game published by Sega. It is based on the film Captain America: The First Avenger. The story of the game takes place during the events of the film, telling Captain America's adventures against the Red Skull and Hydra. Hydra's castle appears in the game as Captain America has to fight many henchmen such as the infamous Iron Cross, the forces of Hydra, and Red Skull. Arnim Zola also appears in the game as players will have to stop his evil experiments. The same actors reprise their roles from the film. Captain America Super Soldier combines a highly athletic combat system with fluid platforming and a highly tuned suite of shield attacks, as Captain America explores a massive castle turned military installation. His shield can be employed in numerous ways: take out multiple enemies at once, deflect incoming fire back at enemies, solve puzzles, and scale walls. Players are able to launch shield first into the fray with the superior force of the world's first super soldier at their fingertips to overcome a castle that's both an acrobatic playground for Captain America's physical prowess and a house of mystery with enemies in danger at every turn. Cap can be made stronger by finding intel points. Intel points can be collected by beating soldiers or retrieving items in the battlefield. This game is better than you think it is, trust me. I played it, I got the platinum, had a good time. And what can I say? It was fun.
Science would have us believe that we have nearly lost our animal instincts.
X-Men Origins Wolverine is a hack-and-slash action-adventure game loosely based on the film of the same name. The game was developed primarily by Raven Software. X-Men Origins takes influences from games such as God of War and Devil May Cry with its gameplay. The Uncaged edition also features a large amount of blood. Enemies can be slain in several ways in addition to the graphic display of Wolverine's healing factor. Combat relies on three options: light attacks, heavy attacks, and grabs. Another form of attack is the lunge, which allows Wolverine to quickly close the distance to an enemy. Wolverine can also use the environment to his advantage, such as impaling foes on spikes. During combat, Wolverine's rage meter builds up, and when full, allows him to use more devastating attacks, like the claw spin and a berserker mode, which increases Wolverine's claw strength until his rage meter empties. Experience points are collected from defeating enemies, destroying elements, and accumulating collectibles. The XP is used to level up, and each new level results in gaining skill points, which are then used to purchase upgrades. This is another game, it's better than you think it is, trust me. You might be surprised at how visceral it is. It's exactly how I always wanted a Wolverine game to be. Blood, guts, and limbs flying everywhere.
We're taking our ashes to the highest peak in the realms.
Ashes?
It was our last wish.
Where must we go?
To a realm beyond your own.
God of War is an action-adventure game developed by Sony Santa Monica Studio and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. It is the 8th installment in the God of War series, the 8th chronologically, and the sequel to God of War 3. Unlike previous games, which were loosely based on Greek mythology, this installment is rooted in Norse mythology, with the majority of it set in ancient Norway in the realm of Midgard. For the first time in the series, there are two protagonists: Kratos, the former Greek god of war, who remains the only playable character, and his young son, Atreus. Following the death of Kratos' second wife and Atreus' mother, they journey to fulfill her request that her ashes be spread at the highest peak of the 9 realms. Kratos keeps his troubled past a secret from Atreus, who is unaware of his divine nature. Along their journey, they encounter monsters and gods of the Norse world. Described as being a reimagining of the franchise, a major gameplay change is that Kratos makes prominent use of a magical battle axe instead of his signature double-chain blades. God of War also uses an over-the-shoulder free camera with the game in one shot, as opposed to the fixed cinematic camera of the previous entries. It was the first 3D AAA game to use a one-shot camera. The game also includes role-playing video game elements, and Kratos' son Atreus provides assistance in combat. The majority of the original game's development team worked on God of War and designed it to be accessible and grounded. God of War received universal acclaim for its narrative, world design, art direction, music, graphics, characters, and combat system. Many reviewers felt it had successfully revitalized the series without losing the core identity of its predecessors. It received a number of perfect review scores. Among other awards and nominations, God of War was awarded Game of the Year by numerous media outlets and award shows. If Thor was your guy in Marvel's Avengers, then check out God of War. The way Kratos uses his axe in combat was heavily inspired by Thor and his hammer Mjolnir, so you won't skip a beat.
My name is Alex Mercer. They call me a killer, a monster, a terrorist. I'm all of these things.
Prototype Biohazard Bundle is a collection of 2 open-world action-adventure games developed by Canadian studio Radical Entertainment and published by Activision. But I'm going to focus on the second one here. The game features a new protagonist, James Heller, as he goes on a quest to destroy the Blacklight virus. The story is one of revenge, as Heller wants to kill Alex Mercer, the protagonist of the original prototype, after his family was killed in the outbreak of the Blacklight virus. Heller has superhuman strength and agility, near invulnerability to harm, near flight leaping and gliding, infinite stamina, increased speed, and has a sonar sense. Powers are more meaningful, appearing as mutations and upgrades that let players decide how they want to play as Heller. To give gamers more power in the game, the developers added tendrils. Tendrils sprout from Heller's arm and can be used for a variety of purposes. Players can use tendrils to smash objects into other objects, such as a car into a tank, utilizing the black hole attack. Players will also be able to dismember enemies, a force that becomes more useful as the game progresses. There are many more ways to kill enemies as well, ranging from throwing a car at a group of Blackwatch soldiers to hacking off a mutant's head or using powers. If your favorite pastime in Marvel's Avengers was smashing things, then you'll be right at home with these games. In fact, Radical Entertainment previously developed the Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction game back on PS2, which is still to this day probably the best Hulk game ever made. They took that gameplay and they made the prototype series, so smash on.
And there came a day when Earth's mightiest heroes found themselves united against a common threat.
And here's a bonus for everyone. The Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes is an American superhero animated television series by Marvel Animation in cooperation with Film Roman. The series initially features a team based on the roster for the original Avengers, composed of Iron Man, Giant Man, Hulk, Thor, and Wasp. The team is later joined by Captain America, Black Panther, and Hawkeye in the first season, and Ms. Marvel and Vision in the second season. In terms of overall tone and style, the series is based principally on the original stories by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. The series also uses material from all eras of the comics run, as well as other sources such as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Who would have thought that a Diablo game with a Marvel skin would be so good? Me. If you liked the video or it helped you out, click the thumbs up button below. It really helps us out. If you think it could help others, share it. Of course, subscribe for more content like this and more. And if you have anything to add to our list, feel free to comment below. Thanks for watching and keep attacking.